was never kind. It didn't matter how dim the light was, or how much makeup I tried to smear over the puckered lines. Those damn scars stared back like ghosts that refused to rest. They crawled from beneath my right eye, pulling at the corner of my face, twisting my skin into a roadmap of memories I never asked to keep. I used to joke, dark humor style, that I brought back souvenirs from Afghanistan. Shrapnel in my shoulder, a twitch in my left hand, and a face that made strangers flinch. They weren't laughing. Not the recruiters who used to promise, "We've got your six." Not the hiring managers who gave warm smiles over the phone, only to blink like deer in headlights the second I walked into their office. And certainly not the people who crossed the street to avoid me. I fought for their country. I spilled blood, some mine, some not, for their goddamn freedom. And yet, the moment they saw me, their eyes said it all: freak, monster, ruin. You know what's funny? The blast didn't kill me, but coming home nearly did. It had been 3 years since that desert hellscape ripped me apart. 2 since I left Walter Reed with a Purple Heart and a plastic folder full of civilian reintegration resources. And 6 months, 6 fucking months of sending out resumes, shaking hands, being told I was impressive on paper, until they met me in person and their whole damn tone changed. The most brutal rejection came from a law firm. HR lady smiled so hard I thought her face might split, until she clocked the right side of mine. She didn't even try to hide it. "We're looking for someone with a different kind of presence," she said. "Yeah, someone whose face didn't scream war story. Rent was due, car needed gas, and dignity didn't pay the bills." So I swallowed the last of my pride, shoved my medals in the bottom drawer, and said yes when Dorothy, the owner of some backwoods diner called Dot's Country Kitchen, offered me a waitressing job. I told myself it was temporary, just a way to scrape by until something better came along. But deep down I knew the truth. This was the only place that would take me. And it wasn't because they were generous. Hell no. It was because they were desperate. Dots had a reputation. Quick turnover, low pay, and a clientele that didn't tip unless you smiled hard enough to split your lips. Still, I showed up on time, kept my head down, and did the damn job. Because that's what soldiers do. We adapt. We overcome. Even when it fucking sucks. But every shift was a battlefield of its own. People didn't whisper as much as hiss. Parents pulled their kids closer when I approached. Some wouldn't even let me serve them. One woman flat out asked to be moved to a different section. I can't eat with that walking around. That. Not her. Not even the waitress. I was a thing now. A cautionary tale in human form. There were nights I came home and sat in the dark, too wired to sleep, too numb to cry. I'd stare at the ceiling and wonder if I should have just stayed over there. Maybe gone out in a blaze instead of dragging this broken body back to a country that looked right through me. You ever wonder what it's like to be invisible and the center of attention? That's what it felt like. People noticed me just enough to be uncomfortable, but not enough to give a damn. Sometimes I'd touch the small American flag pin on my name tag. The only part of my story I let show. Customers never saw it. They were too busy staring at what was wrong with me. They didn't know that those scars came from pushing 2 guys out of a flaming Humvee seconds before it blew. They didn't know I carried a fellow medic 100 yards with half my face peeling off. They just saw ugly. But I didn't need their sympathy. I sure as hell didn't want their pity. What I wanted, what I deserved, was respect. And God help me, I was gonna earn it. Even if I had to fight for it every single damn day. The bell above the diner's door chimed like a gunshot. Every damn time it rang I flinched. Stupid, right? You'd think after 2 deployments, I'd be used to sudden noises. But that chime always set my teeth on edge like it was warning me. Here comes another one. Sundays were the worst. Post-church crowd. The kind of people who wore cross necklaces and pray for our troops bumper stickers but wouldn't look me in the eye. They flooded in like a wave of judgment wrapped in perfume and aftershave, giving tight-lipped smiles to Dorothy at the register before doing a double take at me. There was this one couple. He wore a golf shirt 3 sizes too tight over his belly. She had hair that looked like it belonged in a 1950s shampoo commercial. As I brought them pancakes, I heard her whisper, clear as day. Why would they hire someone who looks like that? And then him. Ruins my appetite completely. I didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just turned, smiled, and walked away. But my grip on the orange juice pitcher was white-knuckle tight. The surface of the juice rippled like a damn seismograph. One more crack like that, and I might have just hurled it across the room and walked out. Maybe I should have. But I didn't. Because I needed that $9.75 an hour. Because my credit card was maxed out. Because this stupid diner with its sticky booths and flickering lights was my last shot at staying afloat. And I was alone. So painfully goddamn alone. Even Melissa, the other waitress, barely talked to me. She was one of those women who looked like she never had a bad day in her life. Clear skin. White teeth. Friendly to customers, cold as a popsicle to me. She started skimming tables off my section. Oh, I'll take table 3, they looked picky. Like I couldn't handle a coffee refill without traumatizing someone. The only person more two-faced than her was Dorothy Morgan, my boss. And that woman, she could turn on fake kindness like flipping a switch. She'd smile at customers while glaring daggers at me from the corner of her eye, like my face was a stain on her brand new floors. One time, after a particularly ugly encounter, a kid had pointed right at me and asked, "Mommy, what happened to that lady's face?" And the mom just yanked him away like I was a wild animal. Dorothy pulled me aside and said, "You know, Emily, maybe you could try the evening shifts. Less traffic. Less visibility." Less visibility. Like I was a damn security risk. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her to go to hell, to grab my apron and throw it at her stupid fake pearls. But instead I just nodded. Because I knew what she meant. She was too cowardly to say it out loud, but I heard it anyway. "You're scaring the customers." Back in the bathroom, I stared at myself in the mirror again. My scars had faded slightly, but under the fluorescent lights they still looked raw. Angry. Like I was fresh off the battlefield. And maybe I was. Not the desert one. The one right here. This diner. These people. Their eyes were bullets, and their words were shrapnel. And every day I bled a little more. That Sunday I almost quit. Almost. Until I saw him. Table 9. Some teenager, probably 16, sitting with his mom. Everyone else looked at me like I was a walking car crash. But not him. He looked straight at me. Not through me. Not at my scars. Into my eyes. And he did something no one had done since I came home. He placed a hand over his heart. Just for a second. Just for me. And goddamn it, it hit me like a truck. I didn't know who he was. Just some kid in a hoodie with 2 big sneakers and eyes that were too old for his face. But there was something in the way he looked at me like he knew. Like he understood something the rest of them would never get. That one gesture kept me going. 'Cause right after that it got worse. At table 5, some old man waved at me like I was his damn servant. "Could we get some more coffee over here?" I grabbed the pot, walked over, and the second he saw me he flinched, and then leaned away like I just sneezed Ebola into his pancakes. Didn't even try to hide it. I didn't say a word. Just poured the coffee. Let it splash a little. Maybe that was petty. Maybe it was the only revenge I'd get that day. When I finally ducked into the kitchen for a second to breathe, my hands were shaking so bad I couldn't hold a glass. One slipped from my grip, shattered on the floor, and no one said a word. Melissa looked up, rolled her eyes, and kept chopping lettuce. The cook didn't even flinch. Like I was invisible again. But table 9? That boy was still watching. And I had this feeling, this strange, sharp feeling that maybe, just maybe, someone saw me for more than what was left of my face. I wasn't sure how long I could last. But I wasn't done yet. It hit me the second I stepped out of the kitchen. Something had shifted. The air felt heavier, thicker, like a storm about to break. The diner was packed to the gills, full of laughter that didn't quite reach the eyes, clinking forks, and that damn hum of polite cruelty. I adjusted my name tag, the one with the little American flag pin no one ever noticed, and grabbed the coffee pot like it was a shield. I didn't make it 3 steps before Melissa called out in her sweetest poison voice, "Table 4 needs a refill. But maybe I should take it? They seem particular." I knew what she meant. I also knew she'd just taken my table again. I'd been watching her poach tips and dodge confrontation for weeks, letting me take the brunt of the weirdos and the assholes while she coasted on fake charm and flawless eyeliner. I pasted on my everything's fine face, which probably looked more like a grimace, and replied, "I can handle my section." Quiet. Measured. Just loud enough for her to hear the edge behind it. I walked over to table 4 with the pot clutched in my hand and the last of my patience rattling in my chest. The man sitting there wore a pastel golf shirt, expensive watch, smug expression. His wife looked like she'd never broken a sweat in her life. I smiled anyway. He looked up and recoiled, like actually flinched, and said, "Isn't there someone normal who can bring our food?" The words hit like buckshot. I could have taken a bullet easier than that sentence. I blinked fast. My mouth went dry. But I didn't drop the pot, didn't crack. Just stood there, blinking hard as I felt the hot sting crawl up the back of my throat. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience, sir," I said, voice low and even. "I'll see if someone else can assist you." His wife leaned in, all pearls and perfume and condescension. "It's just we're trying to eat, you know? It's distracting." Distracting. Like my face was background noise. Like I was an ugly centerpiece ruining brunch. I walked back toward the kitchen, counted 7 slow, silent steps like I was crossing a minefield, because in a way I was. One wrong move and something inside me was going to blow. I didn't even make it behind the swinging door before Dorothy grabbed me by the elbow. "Emily, honey, can I have a word?" The office smelled like cigarette smoke and Glade. She didn't look me in the eye. Just fiddled with receipts like this was some casual chat, not the slow-motion car wreck it was about to be. "Look, I value your work ethic. I do. But if customers are uncomfortable..." "I understand," I said. My voice was steady, but my chest felt like it was splitting in two. "Maybe kitchen duty. Or some evening shifts when it's a little darker. Less crowded. Less crowded. Less visible." She didn't have the balls to say the real thing. "We want you where no one can see you." I nodded, walked out, grabbed the coffee pot again. Like a soldier going back into the field after being told her squad didn't want her anymore. Then the worst table of the day came in. 4 guys in golf polos, loud as hell, already laughing before they even sat down. I knew the type, entitled, arrogant, convinced the world owed them a discount and a pretty waitress to flirt with. I approached, pen and pad ready. Professional smile locked in. One of them cupped his hands and yelled, "Hey Scarface, can we get some service over here?" The whole diner turned. I froze for a second. Just a second. But in that pause the silence got real loud. I made it to their table anyway. "Welcome to Dots. What can I get for you today?" Another one snorted. "What happened to your face?" "Bar fight. Car accident." I didn't flinch. "I can recommend the pancake special," I said, calm and smooth. "Or our country breakfast. Comes with eggs, bacon, hash browns." He cut me off. "I asked you a question. What's wrong with your face?" Behind the counter, Dorothy was staring at the register like it might save her. Melissa had disappeared, probably into the freezer with her spine. So I told them. I was injured while serving in Afghanistan. That shut them up for all of 5 seconds. Then came the laughter. "Afghanistan." One of them snorted. Probably spilled chili on herself working kitchen duty. "Woman in combat." Another muttered. "What a joke." My hand trembled. My pen scratched crooked lines on my pad. But I didn't say a word. Just turned to walk away. One of them knocked his glass off the table. Deliberately. "Look what you made me do with your shaking. Clean it up." And I did. I got on my knees and picked up broken glass while they chuckled. And that was when Dorothy's voice finally cut through the noise. "Emily. Enough." Everyone froze. "You're making everyone uncomfortable. I need you to clock out." I stood up, glass in my hand, heart in my throat. "I haven't finished my shift. I'm sorry, but it's just not working out." The words were final, like a shot fired. And for the first time since I'd come home I couldn't hold it in. "You're firing me because of how I look." She didn't answer. Didn't deny it. Just looked away. And that silence was louder than every explosion I'd ever heard. I stood there, pieces of broken glass still in my palm, the sting sharp and grounding. My apron felt like a noose. The silence in that diner was deafening, not because no one heard what just happened, but because everyone damn well did. And no one said a thing. I wasn't surprised. Disgusted, yeah. Furious, hell yes. But not surprised. Because that's what people do. They look away when shit gets uncomfortable. They pretend they didn't see you bleed so they don't have to feel bad about stepping over you. My mouth opened before I could stop it. "You're firing me because of how I look." Dorothy Morgan didn't flinch. Didn't deny it either. She just shifted behind the counter, like maybe if she moved fast enough, she could outrun the guilt creeping up her neck. The laughter from the golf shirt gang had finally died out. Even they knew they pushed it too far. But they sat there like smug bastards, waiting for their food like kings on a throne of cowardice. Nobody moved. Nobody said a goddamn word. And that's when it happened. That quiet rustling. A scrape of a chair. From table 9. I didn't even look up at first. I thought maybe someone was leaving to avoid the awkward scene. But then I heard it. Can I say something? Tyler Davis. The teenage kid who hadn't stopped watching me all morning. His voice cracked at the start, barely above a whisper. But it cut through that tension like a blade through butter. His mom reached for him, panicked. Tyler, sit down. But the kid shook her off slow and firm. He stepped forward. Small, skinny, but something about the way he stood like a soldier. Like someone who knew how to hold a line even when the fire came down hard. He looked at me. Really looked. Not at my scars. Not at the broken glass or the coffee stain on my apron. At me. Then he turned to the diner, to all of them, and said 6 words that cracked the whole goddamn world open. She saved my father's life. Twice. Silence. But not the awkward kind. This was the kind of silence that settles in your bones and dares you to speak against it. He pulled a picture from his wallet. A worn, crinkled photograph that had clearly been folded 1,000 times. This is my dad, he said. Captain Michael Davis. 10th Mountain Division. 2 Purple Hearts. This woman pulled him out of a burning Humvee while bullets were flying overhead. She dragged him almost a football field length. She shielded him with her body when another explosion went off. He held up the photo. A younger me, pre-scar, pre-shattered nerves, smiling next to his dad in combat gear. My hair was pulled back tight. My eyes looked like steel. He told me she didn't just save him. She saved his team. And she never talked about it. Never bragged. Just did her job. I stared at the kid, tears welling up so fast I didn't have time to blink them away. I hadn't cried since Kabul. Not really. But something about this teenager standing in a diner full of cowards and saying the thing no one else would. It shattered something in me. Or maybe it finally put the broken pieces back together. In the far corner of the diner, an older man in a faded veteran's cap stood up slowly. I served in Vietnam, he said, his voice rough and heavy. And I've been sitting here this whole damn time watching this happen saying nothing. Ma'am, I apologize for my cowardice today. He saluted me. Not a joke. Not a half-assed gesture. A real salute. One that made the hair on my arms stand straight. Then it was like the whole room shifted. A woman at a nearby table wiped her eyes with a napkin. I'm so ashamed, she whispered. Even the jackasses from the golf table looked like their balls had shrunk 3 sizes. One of them tried to chuckle and stopped halfway through, like the guilt had grabbed him by the throat. Dorothy finally stepped out from behind the counter. Her voice had none of that fake smile sweetness now. Emily, I didn't know. I cut her off with my eyes. Not a word. Just the look. You didn't ask. You never asked. Tyler turned back to the room, his voice steady now. You just decided who she was by looking at her. And that was it. That was the truth. Raw. Ugly. Unfiltered. One by one people stood up. Tyler's family. The Vietnam vet. The woman who just apologized. Like some invisible weight had lifted, and for the first time in a long time people were seeing. Not the scars. Not the story they made up about me. Me. The soldier. The medic. The woman who lived through hell and kept moving. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. My throat was a mess. My hand still held pieces of broken glass. But in that moment I wasn't the girl people whispered about. I wasn't that woman with the face. I was a goddamn hero. And they finally saw it. I didn't remember walking out of the diner. I just remember the door swinging shut behind me, the cold air biting at my face, and the sound of applause still ringing in my ears. But it wasn't the kind of applause that follows a good meal or a well-sung church solo. It was something raw. Real. Like people were clapping not because they were happy, but because they were ashamed they hadn't clapped sooner. I stood outside, still in my apron, blood drying on my palm from the broken glass. The sunlight hit me like a spotlight, harsh and bright, and for a second I felt naked, like the world could see every crack, every scar, every ghost I carried. But then something shifted. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't surviving. I was seen. Tyler's words still echoed in my mind. She saved my father's life. Twice. 6 goddamn words. That's all it took to flip the script. Inside I could hear murmurs. Chairs scraping back. People coming up to Dorothy. Some apologizing. Others offering to pay their check and get the hell out. A few, just a few, looked like they were learning how to be human for the first time in years. I didn't go back in. Didn't need to. Because the next morning my phone rang. It was someone from the Veterans Affairs office. Said they'd heard about what happened. Turns out a woman at the diner had recorded the whole damn thing. Posted it online. It had gone viral overnight. The comment section was flooded with words like, hero, bravery, and, I'm sorry. They offered me a position. Communications coordinator, they said. We need people who understand what it means to come home changed. I laughed. It had been years since I laughed without it sounding bitter. I'm in, I told them. No hesitation. 2 weeks later, I cleaned out my locker at Dots. Dorothy had left me a note, some half-hearted apology scribbled in purple ink, and a small painting from a local artist. Me standing in my waitress uniform, with an American flag behind me. The words, "So we never forget what service looks like," were written in cursive at the bottom. It didn't make up for everything, but it was a start. On my last day, people came in just to see me, to say thank you. Some tipped cash. Others left notes folded under coffee mugs. My brother served. I should have spoken up. Your strength humbled me. I judged you and I'm sorry. I didn't keep the money, but I kept the notes. A few months into my new role, I started seeing Tyler and his family regularly. His dad, Captain Michael Davis, walked into the VA building one afternoon and just shook my hand without saying a word. Then he hugged me. He didn't say thank you. He didn't need to. We both knew. He started volunteering at the center too, talking with other vets who couldn't sleep, couldn't talk to their families, couldn't stop drinking or fighting or fading. We all had our ways of carrying pain. But at least now we weren't carrying it alone. That fall, the local high school invited me to speak at their Veterans Day assembly. I almost said no. Public speaking had never been my thing and I still hated crowds. But something in me said do it. Not for me but for all the soldiers who never made it home. Or who came back but were never truly seen. The gym was packed. Students, teachers, parents. Tyler stood in the front row, hands clasped behind his back like he was on duty. When they called him up to introduce me, he didn't fumble. Didn't stutter. Heroes don't always wear uniforms, he said, voice clear and steady. Sometimes they wear aprons. Sometimes they carry scars that tell stories of courage most of us will never understand. I walked up to the podium, paused, looked out at all those faces, some curious, some nervous, some already blinking back tears. And I did something I hadn't done in years. I touched my scar. Right there on stage. No makeup. No hiding. Scars don't make us ugly, I began. They tell the story of a battle we survived, sometimes so others could live. And for the first time in my life I said it like it was a gift. Not a curse. Back at Dots they put up a wall of honor. Photos of local veterans. At the center was me in my waitress apron, standing proud beneath the American flag. Beneath it was a small plaque. Courage serves daily. And every time someone new walks in and sees it, maybe they'll remember my face. Not because of the scars, but because of the strength it took to wear them.